Welcome to this special series of Inspired By. Join me as I meet local identities.
I think the other one that hugely affected me was playing Helen Reddy in I'm Woman.
That's changing people's lives is an honour.
Including young people who have taken that leap and who are now following their dreams. How was it meeting Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple? Did that trigger some of that stand-up comedy?
You've investigated.
So then I had to somehow not completely freak out about the fact that the movie was going to fall over.
Oh, wow.
Maurice Sendak, Roald Dahl?
Oh, that is amazing.
That point in time, you have to go for it and give it 100%.
I sincerely hope that this helps you in getting you underway in following your dreams. Tilda Cobham-Hervey, you were born in Adelaide, South Australia, and you're a film and television and theatre actress and writer-director with a background in circus and physical theatre. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me here at Inspired By Headquarters.
Thanks for having me.
As a child, you're incredibly energetic and driven. Starting from your earliest memories, can you share with us some of the highlights of your childhood?
Oh, what a beautiful question. I did have a great childhood. I was very lucky to have two parents who were very present in my life. They were very busy with their work, but they loved their work and I was very invited into that. So I think some of my favourite memories was watching my parents create work and being around their creativity. I think that really informed me a lot as a person and an adult too, watching them work. I went to an excellent primary school where I made amazing friends who are still my best friends now. And that was a primary school called the R7 Family Unit, and they sort of taught through this method of teaching called the Reggio Emilio sort of way of teaching, which is sort of learning through play, and that really I think informed again me now, and it taught me so much about, it made me really respect learning and made me very excited to be at school, which I think a lot of kids didn't have. I got to high school and I was so excited to have teachers who were going to sit down and teach me things, and I think a lot of teenagers don't feel that way. So I was lucky for that. I loved being in the circus. That was a really excellent way to grow up around people getting the chance to create all together. So I guess a lot of it's about doing what I loved from an early. I was lucky to discover my passion early, I think, for making things.
What things did you like to do in the circus?
Well, look, I was in the circus. I wasn't the most coordinated, hence why I don't do it anymore. But I loved hula hoop and trapeze a lot. I really loved that. And I think the bit I loved most was getting together with a group of people, and I loved the performing part and doing the shows and working out. When I was 14, I started a company called Gravity and Other Myths with a group of sort of older members in the performing troupe. And it was through that experience where we actually got to make a show together. That was the bit I really loved.
When you did Gravity and Other Myths, did you perform in that circus troupe, or was it like a business that you started and then other people came in to do it? I started performing in it. So I performed with the company from the age of 14 to 19. We did a lot of tours around Australia, so I wasn't at school a lot, but I did school on the road. And when I was about 19, so at around 16, I did my first film. So I took a little bit of a back step from the circus stuff because I was also finishing year 12 and it was just trying to fit a bit too much in. And then at 19, I sort of stepped back properly, and that company still exists though and does amazing work still. Did you enjoy school?
I loved school. I loved school so much. I had an amazing time at school. I really loved my teachers, and I think I was just lucky that I was very excited to be learning things, and the school was very good with me too because I was away from school quite a lot due to various performing commitments. And they also really let me craft, particularly my year 12, into being a year of doing subjects that were really fit for me. So instead of doing the school play in year 12, I made a one-woman solo show, and instead of doing a painting for art, I made a 3-room art installation with projectors, and so I sort of got to use it as a way to explore a lot of things I wanted to do anyway. Yeah.
How did you make the projector?
That was just an idea. So I had I made sort of little videos and projected onto objects. Yeah.
Did you grow up in a creative household?
I definitely did. It was very hard to avoid. I actually don't think I could have done any other job. I didn't know what the other options were besides being in theatre. So yeah, it was all we ever talked about. My brother, though, funny, he's 16 and he is not at all interested in the arts. So he's rebelled, but he's the only one of us.
What kind of things does he like to do?
He loves surfing. He loves cooking. So I guess that's still kind of creative. But yeah, whenever we try and get him to come to the theatre or to an art gallery with us, he goes, oh, no more art.
Can you describe how you went from Gravity and other Miss Circus Troupe to your first acting role at 16?
That is a great question, still one that I don't quite know the answer to. I find it so weird that I ended up in movies. It was really not something I ever thought I would do at all. Actually, the first show I ever did, I was 12 years old and I did a show where my mum and I were both in the show together. My dad lit the show and designed the show. So it was fully in the family. At about 16, I'd really started wanting to figure out how people make work. So not just do tricks, but really wanted to know how people craft a performance. And there was a woman running this audition for a film, and the woman who was running the audition was this excellent theatre maker called Daisy Brown. And I was like, I would love to work with her. And I really loved the film company Closer Productions as well. I'd seen their work and thought they were amazing, but the character description was not like me at all. It was very tough 16-year-old, and I was very much not a tough 16-year-old. So I never thought I would get the role, but I was really excited to go and do an audition and sort of learn from these people. So I went and did that, and then yeah, they decided that I should be in the film, and I spent a long time going, are you sure? I could be really bad at this. And then they convinced me to do it, and I'm so glad they did, because it was just the best.
What was the movie or series you starred in when you were 16?
It was a film called 52 Tuesdays, and it was shot every Tuesday, only on Tuesdays for a whole year. So I was doing year 12 at the time, and I just didn't go to school that Tuesday. So every Tuesday I had off, and I'd go and be, the weird thing is everyone calls me Tilly, and the character's name was Billy, and 2 of my close friends from high school were also in the film. So it sort of felt like we were all living in this parallel universe where we just, and one day of the week we'd all go and pretend to be these slightly different versions of ourselves, and then we'd all go back to school.
Can you tell us about your role since 52 Tuesdays? Yeah.
I've done so many different things since then. I guess sort of mainly people would know about the film and TV stuff. But you know, the truth is they come around and then you have a long time where you don't get to do that job, and you audition and you wait. And I'm not very good at waiting. And I have a feeling you wouldn't be either. I feel like you'd always have another hobby or something that you'd go and do. I've done lots of things since then, and it really has been the company that I keep coming back to. So they made such a deep impression on me, that company. So straight after that, I did another film in Adelaide called One-Eyed Girl. And then I didn't really think I was going to keep being an actor. I went back on the road with the circus for 3 months. Sort of thought it was a weird thing that I'd done 2 films, but that was it. And then the film 52 Tuesdays got into a festival called Sundance, which is a big festival in America. And when I got there were these people called agents that wanted to sign me. And I was like, what are you? Secret agents? Had no idea what they were talking about. And then I ended up going with them, and they started sending me auditions for other things and putting you out to meet people and directors and all of that. So that's when I sort of went, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. So I sort of did that, and then in the middle of those things, I always did theatre or started writing something or made interactive. I love participatory work and interactive things, and so it's always been a balance of sort of waiting for roles and auditioning and doing many meetings. And the amount of auditions I've done compared to the things you've been in is, I probably read 4 scripts a week. and then you probably audition for 2 or 3 of those, maybe a week. It depends on sort of different times of year. And then you might get 1 of those if you're lucky. It's a lot.
How have your acting roles made you into the person you are today?
Oh, what a great question. I don't know, I think you learn so much from this job, as I think you probably would doing any job, but it is strange to have a job which is pretending to be other people and to live out all these crazy experiences. And even though you know they're pretend, I think your body still lives through them. I think a lot of it is about the people you meet on jobs, the conversations you have with people, yeah, the experiences you pretend. I think they've all really, really shifted me for, you know, even if the film was a hard experience or not your favourite experience or your favourite role, I think they still deeply impact how you, every film sort of, you take something away from. Yeah.
When you do those other roles, do you feel like they make you almost like, I remember you once saying something like Billy shaped Tilly, or it really shapes you into a different person you never thought you'd be, and then it gets you places that you never thought you'd go.
That's very true, yeah. It was particularly 52 Tuesdays where I think because I was growing, it's very rare that you shoot a film over a whole year. So I think that was and being that age, I think you change a lot in that year anyway. So it was definitely, I wasn't sure in the end who was informing who, whether Tilly was putting things into Billy or the other way around. I think that was a very strange year of growth. And I think the other one that hugely affected me was playing Helen Reddy in I Am Woman. That there was something about the research that had to go into that role that was really different to other jobs I'd done, and it really made me really question why I do the job I do. It really questioned feminism and the kind of woman I want to be, and how learning to use my voice more and to sort of lean into confidence. I think that took me a long time, and that really helped, yeah.
What did it take to get into character for your incredible portrayal of Helen Reddy in I Am Woman?
First of all, thank you. I sort of did everything. I watched every interview of hers I could. I sung all of her songs. My poor neighbours just had to listen to me screaming every Helen Reddy song for hours. I reached out to anyone that knew her and asked for stories. I read her book. I sort of did everything, and I spent a lot of time thinking about her physicality and her voice. That was really important to me, trying to capture her, the way she appeared, I think, and the way people would recognise her in me, so that I could then have a bit more freedom, I think, to sort of just be in the story that we were telling.
What was the hardest thing to pull off?
Good question. You know, I was initially really scared of the ageing part. So I go from the age of 24 to 48 in the movie. And I was like, oh my goodness, like how am I going to play a 48-year-old with a daughter that's basically my age convincingly? But weirdly, as we started doing the ageing test, I've always felt secretly like an 80-year-old woman. So actually that felt quite easy in the end. And I thought it was going to take them so long to make me look old. And then one day I sat down into the makeup chair, and in about 5 minutes that already made me look like my grandma, which was terrifying. The bits that I was scared of, I mean, I think the thing I was just really daunted by was trying to make it feel truthful. Instead of feeling like you were just impersonating someone, really trying to make sure you felt like you were embodying someone.
How different was it playing a fictional character to a non-fictional?
Yeah, really different for me. I found it very different. I mean, I always do a lot of research and preparation before doing a role. I think I really love that part, the bit where you get to dream up all the possible ways a person could be who they are. I love writing a backstory. If it's a fictional thing, I'll still make up a whole world in my head about where they've come from and who they are. I love that, and it's probably also a way to be less nervous about doing it. I feel like the more you can try and get to know someone, the easier it is to play them. But with Helen Reddy, I really fell in love with her, learning about her, and I really wanted to honour all of her amazing spirit. And yes, I think you're right, when people are watching it who know Helen, you want to make sure that you're seeming like an impression of her that people can look at you and imagine her in that space. So you really want to try and get as much. For me, I really wanted to get down the way she spoke. Even though we're both Australian, we have quite different voices. The way she held herself, the way she moved. And I think, yeah, that was a very different process. I felt much more, particularly at the beginning, I actually think I probably tried too hard to be her. And over the course of filming, I let that go and was able to just be in the story a bit more.
Did some of these roles inspire you to tap into your storytelling ability and branch into writing, directing?
It absolutely did. It was I'm Woman again, playing Helen Reddy and seeing how hard she had to fight to become the kind of artist she wanted to be. And I think I love film. I've loved the opportunities I've had. But it's a really hard thing to keep auditioning all the time, and I think you don't often get to be necessarily the artist you want to be, particularly at the beginning of your career. You're sort of having to say yes to anything and everything. And there was a lot of work, and I really care about the stories we tell. I think it's really, we have a huge responsibility as artists to be able to stand behind the work that you do. I think I've been very affected by movies and books, and I find it very important to be able to stand behind it. So I really, through playing Helen and seeing her journey of going, okay, I get to make an album, but there's not a song that represents me as a woman, I went, okay, yes, I've read a lot of scripts, but I don't feel like there's been a story that really represents me and how I see the world. So it was through playing that role that I went, I've loved this book forever, and maybe I'll try and adapt it into a movie. So I did.
When you do auditions and someone's picks someone else for the role, how do you feel when you get home and you're like, that could have been such a good opportunity, but you still end up high up here?
That's a lovely thing to say as well. I think that it is, I'm usually really fine about it actually. I quite like auditioning. I am always shocked if I get a job. It always just completely, I can never believe it. I still find acting really scary. I'm always a bit surprised that I keep doing it. I find it really nerve-wracking, and I think it's, I find it surprising that I keep trying. I think it's probably because I'm scared of it, but I love it. So there's a slight relief when I don't get a job, because I'm like, oh, I don't have to be stressed about trying to do that right. There's been a few roles that I've been really sad not to get, but I also would hate to ever be in something that a director didn't think I was the perfect person for. So I think I have a bit of a sense of calm about, I think the right things come to people at the right times. And even sometimes when I haven't gotten work for a long time and it's been really hard, or there's a whole lot of things that you've missed out on in a row, it's always then pushed me to go, okay, I'm going to write a script, or I'm going to do something else. And I guess you've just got to find, some version of believing in a version of fate or something, I think, to probably survive this industry of waiting. Yeah.
Inspiring young people to follow their dreams regardless of their circumstances wouldn't be the same if they didn't know what the hardships would be like and how they dealt with them.
And I think that's really hard in the world of film and acting, because everyone looks at it as very glamorized, and I've been very lucky to do the work that I've done. And I think sometimes it's very easy. I find it hard when you look at people's careers and you only see the highlights of the amazing films they've been in, but you don't know that they've probably spent 5 years desperately trying to get a job, working in a cafe, like trying really hard. And that's part of it too. Like I didn't go to university, and I feel like auditioning's been my version of university. I feel really lucky to have tried out a lot of different characters and tried out accents. Like when I first got an agent in America, I hadn't studied or learnt how to do accent work, trying to be American or English. And I'd sit on YouTube and I'd Google other actors and I'd listen to their voice and repeat it back. And the first ones I did were awful. And I think there's sort of part of all of that that's just learning. And I think it's really important to discuss all of those bits, that it's not just like it happens overnight, or that it's easy and that it's scary. Like there's all those things that come with the obviously wonderful part of getting on a set and getting to do the job you get to do.
How important have mentors been throughout your career? Incredibly
important. I think it's really important to have your people that you really trust and that really get you and that you can go to with a question or a problem, because I think there isn't really a rule book like other jobs in the arts. That you're always doing lots of different jobs. I think that every film set you step onto is entirely different. I always get shocked that a movie comes out the other end because it's so different on a set, every different set. Sophie Hyde, who was the director of 52 Tuesdays, has been my biggest mentor. And she's always encouraged me to take risks and to really question what you really want, not what you're sort of being told you should want in the industry, like maybe saying no to a job that seems really exciting or big but maybe isn't very authentic to who you are or the story. You don't feel passionate about the story. And she's really pushed me to do things like, she really encouraged me to direct my first short film, write and direct a short film called A Field Guide to Being a 12-Year-Old Girl, which was one of my favourite experiences I've ever had working. It was amazing to be able to sit in a room with a group of 12-year-old girls and ask them questions about the world and to be led by them and to create a process on a film set that was not with a hierarchy or with people in charge or to stand there and say your line, but to actually make something together and to prove that you can have a set that's nice and encouraging and playful and fun. And I think I learnt all of that from Sophie. Yeah, it's her way of thinking about the world that's completely changed the way I think about the work I want to make. And when I decided to write a script, I instantly went to her, so she's now producing it and directing it. And yeah, so mentors are incredibly important, yeah.
How is acting compared to directing a film?
Directing to acting is, I think, really different. I think it shouldn't be so different, but I think maybe in the systems that we have for film, they're quite different jobs. I would love to work more. I find it odd as an actor that you come into a process on a film set. The director's probably spent 5 years developing the project, coming up with ways to make it, how they want to design the set, imagining every single moment of it, and then an actor will turn up a day before and just step onto set and are sort of meant to be able to be at exactly the same point as the director. And I think I wish there was more collaboration early on so that you got to make sure you were all making the same movie. I think being a director, you have to fit a lot more in your brain. It definitely, when I first directed, and I've only really done a little bit of it, but I would love to do more of it. It was understanding how much a director has to fit in their brain at all times, that you're constantly being asked questions by everyone. But there's a different sense of actors get to think about just the tiny moment that they're in between action and cut, and a director has to always have their brain over like, okay, that one scene we're shooting now, is it going to match with that scene we're going to shoot in 2 weeks' time that in the script comes straight after this? So I think it's probably very different in that space, yeah.
Rob Borowski is the cutest thing I have ever seen. He fits in my palm. He takes up half of my palm if you put it in perspective. He's tiny. What inspired you to create a short film about the world's smallest hamster?
Well, that was sort of my boyfriend's fault, actually. He was, we were meant to be going out for dinner one night, and I was very hungry, and he disappeared into a room and he's like, I can't talk to you for a while. I'm just coming up with this idea and I just need a moment to write it down. I was like, okay. And I was sitting in the kitchen going, when is this gonna end? And I thought he was gonna come out with some like very intense like war movie idea or something. And he comes out and he goes, okay, here it is. What about if we made a story about the tiniest hamster in the whole world? And I was like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. No. And then we went out to dinner and we started talking about it, and I was like, actually, this could be quite fun. And then we were working on a script that he's just finished filming called Monkey Man, which is sort of an intense action movie. And it was very dark and, you know, violent, and we needed a way to switch off from that. So at night, we would sit with me, Dev, and a man called John Colley, who wrote Happy Feet, who was helping us on it.
Oh, I've seen that movie when I was
younger. It's great, isn't it? So we all would sit around at dinner and sort of talk about hamsters, and then once we'd finally finished the feature film script we had to get done, we all just spent a day writing a little story about a hamster, and then someone came on to help us animate it. Yeah.
Where to from here for Tilda Cobham-Hervey?
What a good question. I wish I knew the answer. What I really want to do is the script that I've just written, Irma Voth, I would love to shoot that at the end of this year. That might be being a little bit ambitious, but that's my real dream, that we can get that done. And I've sort of got another idea of a film I'd like to write as well, so maybe that.
What advice would you offer for young people aspiring to become a part of the film industry, whether it be in, say, acting, directing, screenwriting?
Just to keep doing it and do it in any way possible. Like, I think I learnt everything from just, for example, like I didn't have any work for a little bit and I went out and went, okay, I've got 3 weeks and the Fringe is about to be on, I'm going to try and make a Fringe show. Or you know, keep writing, keep reading scripts. You can access so many scripts online. Practice your accents, practice your, make things with your friends, get together and just keep creating, I think. So many of the biggest TV shows and movies recently have been people that have just written something in their bedroom and gone out and made it, and then it's become a massive hit, and I find that very inspiring. I try and watch one movie a week that even if it's that's challenging. I watch a lot of bad TV too, but, for pleasure, but to try and keep being engaged in things that inspire you, to keep being interested in the work, so to go and see plays as much as you can, to read books, to just stay really open to taking in art as well, and so that I think it makes you better at making it.
I believe all children are born with creative potential. What are your thoughts on this, Tilda?
I absolutely agree. I feel very passionate about encouraging children's creativity, and I think I sometimes get very jealous of kids because I think they're very good at it. I mean, they're the best actors. You see like a 3-year-old and they'll really just become a lion or something. They can just fully be in the moment of not being embarrassed, not worrying if they're doing a good job of it. They're just fully in the moment of that. And there's a guy I really love called Ken Robinson. He does these amazing talks about kids and creativity. And there was one thing he talked about where he gave a bunch, I'm gonna ruin this now. I'm gonna butcher his actual quote here, but I'll give it a shot. He gave a bunch of, I think it was like 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds a paperclip and asked them all the things that the paperclip could be. And they all came up with so many different answers. And he asked the same question to a group of 8 or 10-year-olds and they could come up with about 2 things. So I think that we do sometimes get trained out of it as well.
Have all the challenges that you have faced thus far in following your dreams been worthwhile?
Absolutely. I think they've been sometimes more important than the successes, the challenges. I think that they're the time you really grow a lot. You learn a lot from the failures or the bits that don't go right. So yeah, absolutely.
Have your parents been supportive along your journey thus far of being in the arts?
Yes, they have been. I don't think they had a huge choice because they were the ones that got me into it. So it's their fault. They have been. They were worried about me going into the film industry, I think, and probably quite rightly. It's a hard industry, a lot of rejection, but they were always really supportive of my choice to do it. And I think they've been very encouraging of me continuing to make sure I have a world outside of that and to keep using my brain in creative ways, whether that's making a Fringe show or writing a script, or to keep engaging in other forms of learning. I was really lucky that they were incredibly supportive of me being in the arts though. I know that not every person gets that opportunity, and I know a lot of friends who have, you know, had that conflict. But I think if you're someone who is really passionate about doing it, it's absolute, you will always find a way to do the job or to engage in the job. And there's so many different ways to be an artist or be in the industry.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me today and sharing your inspirational journey thus far. It has been a pleasure meeting you.
Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
I have a gift for you.
A gift? I've already got gifts. I'm amazed by this already. Oh my God, this is amazing. Oh my goodness.
That's Roborowski doing all the achievements you've done.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. This always gets me, brings me right back. So should we be Helen? I'll teach you how to do it.
Okay.